Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, and welcome back to the channel for another update to the Smite 2 item tier list for the current patch, OB17. I've been getting a lot of requests to do an updated version of this. Obviously, with Smite 2, like how quickly it patches and everything, all the hotfix updates, like the item meta can change pretty quickly. And while it wasn't too long since I did my last one of these, I thought I would give you guys an update, because as I said, I have had a lot of people requesting one. And there has been quite a few shifts in the item meta and some buffs and nerfs and whatnot since my last one. As always, we'll be ranking all the items in the game from S to F. S tier is your best items in the game, F tier is basically never build these, and then everything in between is like a sliding scale. And as usual with my item tier list, this is mostly my own experience in Masters Ranked where I'm at the moment. I am also taking into account a little bit of like what I see other top players building in my ranked games and on people's streams, as well as a little bit of data from Smite2.live that has item usage data and win rate data. Item win rates can be a bit dubious at points because like if everyone is building one item, it has generally a lower win rate than if someone is using it like as a specialty item. Because obviously if every game has both mid laners building Soul Gem, for example, then Soul Gem's going to have a 50% win rate, obviously. So you can only take so much from item win rate, in my opinion. But it can still be useful occasionally. So yeah, I basically taken into account a bunch of different stuff. But without any further rambling, let's jump right in with Spear of Desolation as our first item, which is obviously a straight up S tier item. This is one of the best items in the game. Should be in every single one of your mid builds. 100 intelligence is very high. You get a decent bit of cooldown rate, and then the passive on this item is just outright broken. You can get a decent amount of CDR in mid builds at the moment, especially with the buff to Gem of Focus, which we'll talk about in a bit, but you can get your basic cooldowns down very low to where this is like almost a reset pretty much on your basic abilities, and then 10 seconds off of your ultimate every time. You know, if you get a double kill, triple kill, or whatever, you can ult again in the same fight a lot of the time. The item's just crazy good. Polynomicon I'll also throw to S. I'm trying something new here, basically. Normally I will put Polynomicon in A because it is situational and only built on a handful of gods, therefore like you shouldn't be building it in every build. But for this tier list, I'm going to try putting like situational items where they would be when they are built on the right picks. And when Polynomicon is built on the right picks, it is one of the best items in the game. It's absolutely incredible. 65% of your int on a basic attack with no internal cooldown is kind of crazy. You don't build this on every mid laner, but on the ones you do build on, it's absolutely an incredible item. Gem of Focus, I think is good. I'm going to throw it to the A tier. I don't think it's quite worthy of S, but with the buff that this item got, it now has 20 cooldown rate on it, which is really, really good. That's among the highest cooldown rate of items in the game, especially for mid laners, and that movement speed can be valuable for certain picks. You know, if you're playing something a little bit less mobile, you know, something like a Ra, a Zeus, a Vulcan, whatever, that movement speed can be really valuable. And yes, it's still low on int. It doesn't really give you a whole lot of int, but it does give you a lot of utility and 20 cooldown rate on that movement speed. And I think this item is pretty good now. Book of Thoughts is pretty bad. I'll throw it to B. It's mainly just because it's outclassed by other things. I think the item itself like isn't completely terrible. It does offer you a lot of int, especially if you can throw a bit of mana into the rest of your build. So Hootie has mana, you could build some other items as well. But just generally, you're not looking to build Book of Thoughts as like a rush on most of your mid laners right now. You're either rushing Doomob if you want a big high power spike first item, or you're rushing something with a bit more utility like Spear of Deso or Chronos Pendant, or maybe even Gem of Focus. Generally, you're just not going for a Book of Thoughts rush at the moment. It's not terrible, but there's better options. Divine Ruin, I really don't see this thing used. I don't think it's very good. I'll throw it to like C. Yes, you can get some extra damage on the proc, but there are a lot of items that fill a similar purpose but do it better. I just don't think this item is good enough with the amount of scaling that it has. Dreamer's Idol is pretty terrible. I'll throw it down to the F tier. There's not much reason to build this. You can't really fit it in your build. It's very expensive, so its power spike is terrible. Obviously, its power spike is great once you buy it, but you know, you've 3,500 gold for this item. You're going to be buying basically no extra stats for a long time while you save up for this. I think the final upgrade just from the tier 2s is like 1,700, which is ridiculous. And yeah, well, it does offer you a lot of base int, and a 25% increase of 10 seconds is kind of nice. Ultimately, I don't think you should be building this on any mid laners. Rod into Hootie straight to the S tier. Obviously, this should be in every single Mage build, no question. If you're not building Rod, I don't know what you're doing. 25% int boost is just absolutely massive. You should have this in every build. Gluttonous Grimoire, I don't see used very much. I think I'll throw it to C. It's similar to Divine. Like, I guess it's a semi-usable item-ish, but I wouldn't recommend building it, to be honest. It doesn't do enough for you. Soul Gem has been rising a little bit. Soul Gem is popping up in some mid builds now. Obviously, Giannis is a really good user of this since the changes that they made to Soul Gem, where buffing your allies with an ability or healing your allies can give you stacks on this. So Giannis is back to using and abusing this item, there are a few other picks that can do it well as well. I think it's at least B tier. I would argue maybe for an A tier, honestly, for Soul Gem. I think it is quite good at the moment. It's similar to Gem of Focus, I guess. You know, it's a low int item. I think Soul Gem only has 40 or 45 int on it, but it's going to give you a lot of utility. It gives you cooldown, it gives you lifesteal, and it gives you that big heal on the passive as well, and some extra damage. And this is kind of one of those items that is just like better at doing Divine Ruin's job, really, because it also gives you utility. Necronomicon, F tier, don't buy it. You all know my feelings on Necronomicon. It can be insane if you're building it and just never dying, but most of the time you will end up dying with this, and even when you're not dying, it's 200 int and nothing else, but you also lose 30 of each protection, so you die like instantly. Going from like 60 base prots that most squishies have down to 30 is like a massive damage increase. You're making yourself take like 15% more damage, so unless you can just avoid getting hit entirely, like if you're massively outclassing your enemies and you know it, you could buy Necronomicon, but in your average game, I wouldn't recommend building this on anyone, really. Doom Orb, I'll throw to A. Doom Orb's a great item. If you want to rush it first, it's a better version of Book of Thoth if you just want an item that is just going to give you a shitload of int for your first slot. It's totally valid to do that. You could also rush some other items that will give you a bit more utility if you want, but Doom Orb is solid. Staff of Muradin, I think it's actually interesting. I think for the first time, I'm going to throw this like not in the lower tiers. I think B tier is probably appropriate for this item now. With the buff that they gave it, it's now an 80-second cooldown on the active effect, which is not too bad. Still relatively long. It's not going to be up necessarily for every fight, but it will be up for most fights, and you can get a lot of value out of it. It's still a bit of a niche pick. It's only good on like certain picks. Obviously, Zeus loves this item. But yeah, I do think it has potential now. You know, it's still reasonably expensive for what it gives. It doesn't give a load of int or cooldown reduction or anything. Deso gives way more. But I do think the item might be usable now. 80 seconds. I think people should probably start experimenting with this a little bit in their mid builds. Bancroft's Talon, though, is pretty bad. I'll probably throw it to C. I think it's like probably better than the items that are down here for the most part, but I wouldn't recommend building Bancroft's Talon, really. Even Anubis, I'm pretty sure, doesn't build this item right now, and if Anubis isn't building it, it's probably bad. Worldstone is okay. I think I'll throw it C. I'm not a massive fan of Worldstone, to be honest. Like, yes, it gives you a lot of ultimate CDR, but it doesn't really do anything else for you. Maybe on certain picks, you can make use of this if you really are relying on your ultimate and you want that up as much as possible, but I wouldn't really recommend it on the vast majority of mid laners. Cosmic Horror is pretty bad as well. I'll throw this to C tier. Kukulkan is basically the only one that wants this item, and that's because it gives mana and it's going to give him extra. You know, if you're already building Book of Thoth plus Cuckoo passive, this item does become attractive. On any other pick, though, this is just a worse version of Chronos Pendant, and I wouldn't really ever build this. There's other CDR items that you could get that are going to do better for you. Typhon's Heart, they did update this item to be a little bit, like, better. I don't know if it's good, to be honest. I haven't really seen many people using it. I'll throw it to C. I think I had it in F before. They did update the item to where, like, the summon is a little bit more intelligent now. Like, it'll run back to you if it has no target. It will prioritize targets that you're hitting instead of just, like, running into towers and whatnot. So I think it could be experimented with a little bit more, but I'm not sure if it's good, to be honest. Pendant straight to the S tier, premium ADC item, premium mid lane item. This should be in all of your mid lane builds. All three of these, Deso, Rod, and Pendant, should be in all of your mid builds. They're just auto builds. Chronos Pendant gives you so much CDR. Yes, it gives a little bit less in, but that CDR is super valuable. Reaver is good. Reaver, I think I'll throw to like probably B. You can make an argument for A on Reaver, to be honest, but I think in some games, there's just not much point building Reaver. Like, if they have some tanks that are giving you trouble and are stacking a decent amount of health, this item can hit really hard. And obviously, on certain picks that can abuse it, like Merlin just spamming abilities down range, proccing Reaver on people, it can be good. I think it's definitely an argument you could throw Reaver to the A tier, but I think I'll leave it in B for now. Bloodbound Book is pretty bad, honestly. Generally, you're not building, like, enough lifesteal for Bloodbound Book to be giving you a really big shield. It's okay. I do think, like, maybe B could be argued for it. And yeah, it probably is. It's probably better than these items that are down in C, but definitely a low B tier for Bloodbound Book. Like, Bloodbound Book is not comparable to, like, Reaver, I don't think. Reaver would be on the upper end of this tier. Wish Granting Pearl, I'll throw to C. I think it's okay. If you're kind of winning, you're stomping a little bit, you can get away with a little bit of a lull in your build where you're not buying much, because this is one of the expensive luxury items where you're not going to get a power spike until much later. If you can get away with that, if you feel like you're winning and you can get away with delaying your build a little bit, Wish Granting Pearl does give a lot of stars. It's like 120 and 400 health or something like that. It can make you a little bit more tanky. You know, if you got like a Wish Granting Pearl and a Gem of Focus or whatever, you're running around with increased movement speed and some extra health, you can be quite hard to kill. It's okay. I wouldn't recommend it in most of your builds, though. Jade Scepter is fine. I think I'll throw Jade Scepter to like the B tier. I think you could argue for an A tier on it, but since the cooldown increased to its active effect, there are other ways to keep yourself safe that aren't that are better than this. But I do think this can still be very useful, especially if you're on a less mobile god that doesn't really have a way to easily get away from a dive. You know, stuff like Vulcan, stuff like Zeus, maybe. like, you could build this item on those picks, especially if you're not playing into any gods with, like, heavy displacement immunity. Shard, S tier, obviously, Shard should be in all of your mage builds. You gotta build it, dude. It's percent pen, it's 35% of it, it's really good. You're not gonna really do much to tanks without it. Gem of ISO, probably F tier. I don't see much reason to build ISO, to be honest. Maybe you could make an argument for it on, like, some very specific situations, but there's decent access to easy slow immunity in the game with stuff like Stampede and Hussar's Wings. Quite a lot of god kits have built-in slow immunity as well, so, like, if you found the perfect situation for it, you could maybe argue Gem of Isolation is usable, but the base stats on it are pretty terrible, and the effect isn't, like, overall that useful. That's the mage items done, though. Let's move on to the assassin items with Heartseeker up first, which is an easy S tier item. This is one of the best items in the game, dude. It's absolutely crazy. This item didn't get changed alongside Kin Size and Reaver to be based on missing health. It still just does straight up % max health damage, so it even hits squishies really hard. It's just a crazy item. And with 3k potions the way that they are at the moment, having a Heartseeker in your build is just inherently better as the game goes later, because you're getting more and more of those 50 strength potions online, which is scaling your Heartseeker even more. This item's crazy. It should be in all of your ability-based assassin builds. Jotuns is fine. Jotuns is like A tier. I think you can definitely build Jotuns on your ability-based junglers. It's one of the best ways to get a ton of cooldown rate, obviously. It's fine. There's other options you can go. I wouldn't say Jotuns is a must build on your junglers, but you definitely can build it, and it is pretty good. Transcendence I'll throw to B. This item's not amazing. It does give you a lot of strength. It gives you infinite mana, which is usually not that relevant on most junglers, because most junglers are building Hydras, which gives you infinite mana anyway, so you don't really care about having Transcendence for that reason. So most of the time, it's just, do I want a shitload of strength? Maybe I could build this. Good on Ullr, obviously, but yeah, for like your standard junglers, I wouldn't say Transcendence should be in your build. It's probably like a B tier. Parashu, I'll throw to C. I think Parashu is like usable. I could maybe even make an argument for B. Like, it is a lot of strength that this item gives, but again, it's one of those hyper luxury items. I would only really build it if you think the game's gonna go late and if you can afford to have a weaker like power spike in your build for a bit. It's definitely better than Dreamer's Idol, because 100 strength compared to 140 in 100 strength is a lot better. But yeah, I think Parashu is just like fine. You could maybe build it sometimes, but I wouldn't recommend it most builds. Ulswan Spear is really good. Ulswan I'll throw to the A tier. This is something I've been building on a lot of my strength-based junglers. That flat pen is really valuable in increasing your damage. The item has 60 strength on it as well for a relatively cheap cost, which is not bad at all. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's an auto include, but I have been building this on like most of my strength-based junglers, and it has been feeling pretty good. Pendulum Blade is great. I'll throw Pendulum to the A tier. This is one of the premium CDR options alongside something like Jotuns. This gives you less flat cooldown rate and a little bit more strength, but it also gives you that active 4 seconds off of your cooldowns, which with how available cooldown rate is in jungler builds right now, this can easily be a straight up reset on your abilities, which is kind of crazy. Arendai, I think it's fine. It's a little bit underrated at the moment, I would say. No one's really building it. I think I'll throw it to B. Like, the base stats on this item are not terrible. I think it gives like 55, 60 strength. It's a pretty good amount of strength, and also some cooldown rate, and then that extra damage on the passive can be relevant. Plus the movement speed can be good too. Like, I do think this item is a little bit underrated. It's not something I would be like building in every jungler build or anything like that, but it's something I might consider. The main reason I think it doesn't get built is there's just better options that do similar things. Hydras go straight to the S tier. Hydras is one of the best items in the game right now for your junglers. The vast majority of junglers will be AA cancelling, and you can use this really effectively. Gives you infinite mana if you build it early, which is really nice. Also decent amount of strength on the item. Not crazy, but decent. And it's similar to Heartseeker in the way that like the later the game goes, the more strength pots you're getting online, the harder Hydra's Lament's boost is going to be hitting, because it boosts your basic attack damage, which if you have loads of strength, your basic attack's going to be hitting harder. You're going to get more from this 30% boost. Barbed Carver, I just don't think is very good, unfortunately. I thought this item might be good when it was initially revealed. It's like a big damage increase, but the issue is it's once per ability. If this could stack multiple times per ability, so you could throw like a Loki 3 and stack it 3 times immediately, it would be a lot better, I think, but it's once per ability, and so, you know, to get up to 3 stacks, you have to have already dumped 3 of your abilities, and you're just not getting like as much value as you could from this item. Titan's Bane straight to S tier, same reason as Obsidian Shard. This is built for junglers, but also is the premier ADC % pen option over Executioner at the moment. 35% pen is great. You're gonna need it. Just buy it. Crusher is incredible right now. I don't know if I want to say it's S tier, but it kind of is. Yeah, I think I have to throw it to S tier, dude. It has 60 strength and 15 cooldown rate, which is already really good base stats, and then that effect, again, is similar to Hydras and Heartseeker, a lot of these items. Tahuti is also very similar. Like, these items that just scale off of your strength or your intelligence are just inherently better right now as well, because if the game does go to 3k pot territory, these items are going to be scaling you way harder than something like a Jotuns would. Because all of these items that do % of your strength or % of your int based value or damage are just always going to be good, but like Crusher in general is just good. Really powerful effect, 60 strength, 15 cooldown rate. This is in all of my jungler builds right now. Reaper, I really don't think is very good. I don't see anyone building this. I think it's similar to Necronomicon, where like it's one of those high-risk items. Yes, it can pop off. In fact, it's probably better than Necronomicon. Should I put it in C? Nah, honestly, I'll leave it in F. I feel like this item, like, I never see it used. I've tried it a couple of times myself, and it just never feels super good. Like, if you're absolutely stomping, it's probably good. But, like, for an item to be good only when you're absolutely stomping, I feel like it's probably not an item you want to build most games. You know, maybe, again, like I said with Necronomicon, if you feel like you're just outskilling your opponents massively and you can get away with it, then yeah, you can build this. But I would say most of the time, you really don't want to. Bloodforge is kind of fine. I'd throw Bloodforge to, like, B. It's okay, especially if you got like a Devos in your build, you can get a decent sized shield from this, scaling it off the lifesteal. And again, the shield scales off of strength, so as you go later in the game, if you do end up hitting 3k pop territory, Bloodforge is going to be giving you a bigger shield than normal. And just in general, I think the item's okay. It's not something I would be putting in my builds most of the time, but if you really feel like that shield like is necessary, if you're kind of like getting blown up, but just blown up where the shield might save you, you could go this. That's pretty much all the dedicated ability jungler items, though. Bloodforge kind of bleeds into the ADC role, which we're covering next. Tearfing is first up, which I think I'm going to throw to A tier. On-hit shredder builds with high attack speed is generally what ADCs are going for right now. Crit is okay. Crit is passable. You can definitely get away with going crit, but with how strong spectral armor is right now, oftentimes you are better off just going for these on-hit shredder builds. Tanks are pretty strong too, so any build that melts tanks is going to be effective, and these builds are better at melting tanks than crit builds are because of spectral armor for the most part. And these builds also leave you with room for double percent pen, whereas if you're going for like 3 crit items, you got a little bit less room to slot in double percent pen if you need it, whereas these builds can easily do that if tanks are giving you trouble. Tearfing is one of the core items in that build. If you're building that build, Tearfing should be in there. Sunbeam Bow is great. I'll throw Sunbeam to A tier. You could honestly argue for S with Sunbeam. It is really good at the moment. Again, it's similar to Tearfing. Like, it's just going to give you that extra on-hit damage. It should be in those builds for the most part. Fatalis, I think is okay, actually. I'll throw Fatalis to, like, B. I genuinely think with the amount of slots that you have available when you're not building crit, you can slot Fatalis into your build sometimes. It will be a damage loss, you know, overgoing something like a Tearfing or a Sunbeam or a Braggies or an Oboe. You will lose some damage, but you will gain a lot of utility and survivability. You know, if you're not slowing yourself down with your basic attacks, you're a lot less vulnerable, and you can also chase a lot more effectively. I do think Fatalis is buildable, but you gotta keep in mind that you will lose a substantial amount of damage for going this item. Oboe is crazy right now, dude. Oboe, I think I will throw to the S tier. Most of these items for like this on-hit ADC build are probably gonna go in A, I think, but Oboe is like the best of them, in my opinion. This item's crazy. I've been rushing it second on my ADC straight after Devos, and it's actually felt really good. It gives you that extra wave and cam clear. It lets you farm really effectively, and it's also just decent for poke. The item's crazy good, I think. It also has 40 or 45% attack speed on it or something crazy, so, you know, straight after your Devos, you can finish this for relatively cheap. It's a pretty cheap item, and you get loads of attack speed. It should be in every one of your on-hit builds, but I've been rushing it, honestly, like second and third item, and it's felt really good. Braggies, same tier as Tearfing. Tearfing is a little better, I think. But if your ADC scales with intelligence, Braggies is a little bit better for you, so if you're one of those intelligence scaling ADCs where you get a little bit of extra value from that 25 intelligence that this has, you can build this a little bit earlier. We'll do all the crit items at once, so let's quickly do Linnean Bow. Linnean Bow's crazy, dude. I'll throw it to the A tier. Generally, in ADC builds, you're not actually building this as much. You're seeing this a little bit more on, like, Mercury, obviously, is crazy with this. And a couple of other picks. It's generally better if you're building crit, which is why it's not, like, quite as good as it used to be. Linnean before was, like, an S tier item, and it actually got buffed when they did the anti-heal changes, because you never cared about the anti-heal on this item. It just got 5 extra strength for no reason. And yeah, I think this item would be S tier if crit was the best build, but crit is not the best build, and that's why it's in A tier, I think. Dagger of Frenzy, not honestly an ADC item, really. More of a jungler item. It's in the ADC section, the way I organize this tier list, but really it's more of a jungler item. You can build this on ADCs, but I don't think you really want to. It's more of like a rush on something like an Odin or a Mercury, maybe in jungle. Maybe Fenrir could get away with this. Like, I think it's fine. I'll throw it to B. I think Dagger of Frenzy is a fine item. It's not something I will be, like, prioritizing in my builds too much, though. And let's do the crit items now. So, Demon Blade, I'll throw to... It depends where I want to place these. Like, crit is fine. Crit is totally buildable. You can get away with going crit. It's just on hit is better. I guess I'll throw the better of the crit items in A and the worst of the crit items in B. So, yeah, Demon Blade, Rage, and DB, I think, probably goes to the A tier. And then Musashi's goes to B, and Death Metal goes to C, I think is how I'm going to do this. As I've said throughout this list, generally, you're better off going for the on-hit build in your ADC role right now, but you can build crit. You can. You just got to be aware of the enemy tanks. You know, if they've got double tank team or even a triple tank team, you probably don't want to go crit because they're going to build spectral armor, and you're going to have a real hard time shredding down tanks, and that is the ADC's job in the late game. If you don't have an ADC that can shred tanks, you're gonna have a real bad time right now. Executioner is fine. I'll throw XC to like A. It's not as good as Titans in ADC builds generally. If you're going 1% pen item, it should be Titans. For a couple of reasons. One is that Executioner takes 4 hits to stack up, so you know, on those initial pings that you're doing on like a tank or whatever, they're going to be hitting way less hard with an Executioner than they will be with the Titans. But also Titans main pen hits towers because it's just inherently percent pen, whereas Executioner reduces god protections only, so it's not going to be giving you extra pen against towers, whereas Titans main would. But yeah, I think Executioner is fine. It's just only if you're going double percent pen. If you're going 1% pen item, just buy Titans main. But with the on-hit build, you do have room in your build to go double percent pen if you feel like you need to, and that absolutely deletes tanks. Devos, S tier for sure. Devos is crazy good right now on ADCs. Some junglers build it, even some solo laners build it. This item is incredible right now. It should be in every ADC build, whether you're going crit or whether you're not going crit, in my opinion. I think this is just one of the best rushes in the game. You can get away with rushing something else if you want to, and that will give you pressure over the player that's rushing Devos in the early laning phase. But once they get their Devos done, they're going to start out trading you because this item is just incredible. Kin's size, I'll throw to B. Kin's you're generally not building right now because it's based on missing health difference. Usually it's not giving you enough damage even against tanks to be super relevant, and against squishies this item does nothing. So yeah, generally you're not building this. I think you can build it if you know, tanks are giving you real trouble and they're stacking a decent bit of health, then it can be good. Bracer, I'll throw to like C. Bracer is like, it's kind of fine. It gives you a decent amount of stuff, but generally like intelligence ADCs right now is just not the way to go. You would rather be going a strength ADC and abusing a lot of the better items than Bracer. Nimble Ring, I'll throw to B. Nimble Ring is very, very specific. You're pretty much building this on Ra, maybe Poseidon. It's a very specific item. You pretty much only want it on mages that would like to build Burst Mage anyway, but then also have attack speed synergy with like Ra 2, for example. It's basically a Ra item. You might want it on Poseidon, but yeah, it's pretty much just this item is for Ra, basically. Moving on to some bruiser and tank items though. Avenging Blade is fine. I do think this item's a little bit underrated. You can kind of run at people in the jungle and just like abuse them if you build this like first item on support or whatever. I'll throw it B. I think it's usable. Brawlers is really good. Is it S tier worthy after the nerfs? I'd say probably not. I think I'll throw it A. This is a good item for sure if you're playing against healing. If you're not playing against significant healing, I don't think the item is worth it. But if you are playing into gods that are going to be healing from abilities, like basic abilities on a regular like interval in team fights, this item is going to be good for you. It gives a lot of stats. Sanguine Lash is great. I think it's probably still worthy of S tier despite the nerfs. I think probably lower end of S tier. I don't think this item is like as crazy broken as it used to be. It's not like the best item in the game uncontested anymore, but I think it is still a really, really good item that should be in most, if not all, of your tank builds. Gives you a little bit of extra tick damage for like clear on jungle camps and minion waves and whatnot, and then that active effect can be a really nice source of burst damage to finish off kills when you dive in as a tank. Runeforged, it did get a buff recently. It did get a buff. I'm really torn on this item. I feel like it should be good, but then it just ends up not being good every time. I think I'll maybe throw it B though, if I'm being generous. Mainly because the base stats on this item are just really good now. It's like 45 strength, 300 health, and some health regen, which is just like really good base stats for the cost. The effect can be okay, but it's on an internal cooldown. Like Glad Shield will probably just be better if you want that because it's got no internal cooldown. You can keep proccing it repeatedly. And Runeforged gives no base protections on the item itself, so you'd have to build a lot of protections from your other items to make it useful. But I think just on the base stats alone, like Runeforged is like kind of okay. Shield Splitter, no one really builds this. I don't think it's worth building, to be honest. It kind of fell off hard after they nerfed it. I'll probably give it a C. Berserkers, I'll probably give a C as well. I do build this very occasionally on like my auto attack warriors or junglers, you know, stuff like Fenrir if you're building Bruiser. I think this is okay for him. It's a bit of a specific item, though. It's not something I would build a lot. Violamp, this kind of fell off, right? Like, everyone was thinking Violamp was going to be, like, broken when it released. I don't even think it's taken any nerfs, and it's really not, like, super amazing. It can be good on, like, some picks, I guess, but people have kind of stopped using it, to be honest. I guess Bellona probably still uses it, but you don't see that much Bellona anymore. Honestly, I might give it a B. I feel like it's kind of heresy to put Vitalamp in B. It feels like it should be an absolutely incredible item. But I really don't see it build, to be honest. Even on the picks that it's good on, like Cernanos ADC doesn't build this anymore. People were doing that, but they're not anymore. You would just rather get like an actual proper DPS item. I guess like Armor and Bellona probably build this, but Armor's pretty terrible and Bellona's just okay right now. I think people are overrating Bellona massively. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll put it in B, dude. You can maybe make an argument for A. I think the item is good. It's just like the picks that use it either aren't good or don't use it well enough. Shifter Shield, I'll give a B. I think this item's a little bit underrated. No one really builds it, but the amount of stats that it gives is pretty high. It is just a stat stick. It's not going to do anything else for you, but it is a pretty good stat stick, I would say. Golden Blade is like fine. Some people use it occasionally. I'll probably throw it like B. I've seen some more Apollo solos use this. I've seen the occasional auto attack warrior go this as well. Maybe with Osiris releasing, this item might become a bit better if Osiris is going to be good on release. For now, I'll probably leave it in B though. Eros Bow probably B as well. This item's okay. You can get away with building it, but generally you're not going to be doing so. Oni Hunters is fine. If you need some dedicated magical defense, this is one of the better options. 12% mitigation is a really good way to get like actually tanky. But generally what I found in most games, if they don't have a double magical carry, you know, if they don't have like Aladdin jungle, mage mid, or like Sol ADC mage mid, if they don't have something like that and their only like main source of magical damage is their mid laner, you generally don't need dedicated magical defense. You can just go into like some mixed defense like Spirit Robe and Primwind and stuff like that, and you can get away with that. But if you do feel like you need some dedicated magical defense, Oni Hunters is one of the better options, mostly because most magical defense sucks ass right now. Even a B tier item is one of the better options you have, unfortunately. Such as Phoenix Feather, which I think is still bad. Even when it can't be anti-healed, this item just really doesn't do enough for you, I think. And the cooldown on its effect is just like so long. Screeching Gargoyle, probably F, honestly. This item's just terrible, man. A 1 second silence just doesn't do enough for you. The base stats on it are pretty terrible compared to a lot of other options, and it's a relatively long cooldown on the effect as well. Shoguns, I'll throw to like C. Shoguns also pretty bad. I don't even see like Bellona's building this, dude, which is kind of crazy. Maybe you should build it on Bellona. I really just don't see this item being used at all, though, to be honest. Genji's is a little bit better now. I'll throw Genji's to B for sure. I think Genji's is probably one of your best actual magical defense options. You're either looking at Oni Hunters or you're looking at Genji's, depending on if you want that CDR or if you want that mitigation to be more tanky. I do think since they buffed the internal cooldown of Genji's passive, you are getting pretty frequent resets in a fight, sometimes multiple times a fight, getting 3 seconds off your cooldowns, which is pretty big. Lifebinder, I'll throw B as well. Lifebinder's usable. Some supports can rush this. It gives you a lot of early pressure. It's very hard to trade into in the early game. Some solo laners buy it as well. I've seen some like Baron solos doing Lifebinder rush, and you kind of hard to kill at that point. Rod of Asclepius, probably F. I don't think anyone uses this. It does have that unique synergy of being like an ability heal, so if you want to proc some other ability heal items with it, you can do that. I'm pretty sure it's on a long cooldown though. Breastplate is pretty good. Probably upper end of B tier, lower end of A tier, I would say. I am building this somewhat frequently since the buff that it got, especially if you have healing in your kit. This item can be really good, getting you a bunch of refresh cooldowns. I'll probably say like upper end of B tier. I don't think it's quite as good as the items that are up here in A. Mystical Mail is, so I'll throw Mystical Mail to A tier. This item's really good. Generally one of your go-to physical defense rushes for solo laners. Supports can build this as well if they want to be aggressive and just run at people. It's a good item. Gives you extra clear. The base stats on it are pretty decent too. Stone of Binding, probably like C. Stone of Binding, like the base stats on it are just absolutely horrendous for the cost. You get like 25 of each prot or something for like 2,400 gold. It's really bad. It does give you flat pen, which can be valuable, but ultimately I just don't think it's worth building. Circe's Hexstone, the pig. This is fine. I'll probably throw it B. You can build it for sure. It's got a bit of a long cooldown now on the active effect. It did get nerfed substantially. You're not really building this on backliners anymore because they added the blink style effect to it, where it gets a longer cooldown if you don't hit someone with it. So if you are using this to run away, it's going to be on a pretty long cooldown. I think like 110 seconds, and I think it's 80 if you hit someone with it, which is relatively long. Doesn't give you any prots either. It only gives you health, but I do think this item is pretty good, especially if you're an immobile pick like Ymir or whatever. You might want this for engaging or running away. Eye of Providence, I did put this very low last time. I might throw it B now. I have heard some people saying this item's kind of good, and apparently it's seeing some play in Smite Prime. Personally, I still don't like it. I would rather just be rushing something more proactive on support and buying wards. You know, it is good for your economy. It is like pretty positive overall for your economy because it does give sentry wards and you can take out enemy wards. So it is a pretty good economy item, but it's very slow, dude. It's not really going to do too much overall for you in terms of like actually fighting and pressuring from the support role, which is kind of what you want from support right now. You want to be getting in people's faces, being aggressive, building stuff like Sanguine Lash and Mystical Mail and Regrowth. Stampede even, you know, Stampede to just get your team in there. Like, there's just generally better options that I will prefer my support to be rushing than Eye of Providence, but it is a good economy item. If you want to play a more passive early game and not really fight too much and just like counter ward with this, you can get a lot of gold from it. Eye of the Storm, F tier. Since they nerfed the pull strength on this item, it just sees no play. It's really not worth building, I don't think. Thebes, probably C tier. This fell off substantially, dude. Everyone thought Thebes was going to be so good and everyone was building it, and I really don't think it's worth building anymore. You could maybe argue for B, I guess. It's probably better than the stuff that I've got down here. Low B, though. I really don't think you should be building Thebes and support at the moment. It's similar to Eye of Providence in terms of the argument. Like, it's just so slow early game. You would rather your support was rushing something like Regrowth, Sanguine Lash, Mystical Mail, and getting in there than just building a Thebes and, like, sitting there doing nothing. Once you get sacked, like, going into the mid-game, it does make you pretty tanky for a while, but then it gets hit hard by stuff like Reaver and maybe Kin Size if they want to build it, and Heartseeker. Like, you don't really want something something that's just giving you 1,000 health and no prots in the late game, it's just going to be rough for you. Pridwin, this might be a hot take, dude. I've been building Pridwin a lot. I think it's an A tier item. I think Pridwin is really good at the moment. The base stats are like okay, they're passable-ish. I think it's like 25 of each prots and 12 cooldown rate. It's not bad, but the active effect is really strong, I think. You can get some big fatty shields from this when you stack a lot of protections in your build. I'm frequently seeing like 400, 500, 600 health shields depending on your build with this, and it does a lot of damage as well, and it also slows. I feel like people forget that this item slows. You can just get in there, pop Pridwin, and it will slow on the initial explosion and on the follow-up explosion, so you can keep people slowed and stick to them with your Sanguine Lash and your Mystical Mail for long periods of time. I think Pridwin is underrated right now. I don't see many people building it, but I'm building it on like basically all of my tank builds. I think it's really good. Helm of Darkness is pretty bad. I'll throw it C. Maybe you could find some use for this. Ultimately, I don't really think there is one though. Helm of Radiance, underrated, I think. I'll throw it B. I think in some matchups, if you are an intelligence tank in the solo lane versus a physical matchup, I think this can be good. You know, if you're playing something like a Cerberus, maybe if you want to go a more tanky Hades build, you could get away with this. Maybe Aspect Bacchus. Actually, Aspect Bacchus probably wants to build strength and not intelligence. But yeah, I think in those very specific situations, Helm of Radiance, it gives like, I think 55 physical prot, which is not bad. That's higher than like most physical prot items are at the moment because they nerfed all the prots so heavily. So I think this item is like okay. Nemean is okay too. I think Nemean's overrated. I see a lot of people saying like Nemean should be in like all of your builds. I really don't agree with that. The main reason being like against the proc builds at the moment, it's really good against crit builds. If you got a lot of people building crit, if you have like a Mercury and a crit building ADC, Nemean is much better in that case. But against the current on-hit builds, it really doesn't do enough because it only reflects basic attack damage. It reflects 20% ability damage and 40% auto attack damage, and that is only reflecting the actual damage of the auto attack that hits you, which is often like less than half of an actual ADC's damage when they're building stuff like Sunbeam and Tearfing and Braggies, and it doesn't reflect any of that damage, which is kind of the issue with the item. Like, I do think it's usable, that's why it's in B. It's definitely usable, and especially if people are going crit, this item is really good against crit. But if they're going this kind of a build, with all the on-hit items, you're not reflecting that damage, so it's not really as good as it actually like seems like it might be. For Stars Wings, I'll throw B. It's very situational. You're only really wanting this against like super heavy slow comps. You know, if you're getting slowed a lot by like 2 or 3 of the enemy team or 4, this item can be good. It is pretty luxury though. Again, like I've talked about with the other hyper luxury items, you will delay your spikes quite substantially with this. I think it's 3,500 gold, I want to say. Or have they buffed it? Maybe it's a bit cheaper now. Maybe it's more like 3,100. Still though, it's very expensive and you're going to be waiting a while to get this online with pretty bad power spikes until you hit it. But I do think in certain situations where slows are really fucking you over, you can definitely pick this up. Leviathan's Hide, I still think this item's bad, dude. I'm going to throw it to C tier. You can kind of stack a decent bit of health with it, but most of the time I see people end the game with like 150, 200 health from this passive, which just isn't worth it. And then like the anti-auto attack passive, again, it runs into a similar issue of like Nemean. There just isn't really a good like ADC counter item at the moment because like this is just reducing their strength by 10%. They do not care about that. They care about their attack speed and hitting you with 15 different on-hit effects all at once. Like, if their auto attack is hitting you for 200 damage, but all of their procs are hitting you for 300 damage, reducing that damage by 10% on the 200 is not going to be super relevant when you're not reducing the 300. You know, you want to be reducing their attack speed with something like a Pharaoh's Curse, which I'll talk about in a second, but Glad Shield first. Glad Shield, I don't know, dude. I think this item's still bad. I'm going to throw it to C. I feel like you can't get enough prots, and the base stats on it are so terrible. Maybe you could use this on, like, Mordred or something like that, someone that can repeatedly throw abilities out, but honestly, I feel like Glad Shield's not worth. You'll get more damage out by just standing next to people with Sanguine Lash, Mystical Mail, Pridwin, to be honest. I don't think you really need Glad Shield. You can't get prots high enough. Because it only counts item prots as well. It's not going to count your base prots, and it's not going to count increases from things like Freya's Tears. Like any of those % prot boosts, they don't count for Glad Shield damage, so it really just doesn't give you enough. Pharaoh's Curse, though, I think is B. I think this item's a bit underrated. It's a 40% attack speed slow, which actually is good against the current ADC build. It's like the only item that is good against that. Because if you're reducing their attack speed, you're not only like reducing the overall amount of DPS that their basic attacks are doing, you're also reducing the amount of item procs they can get out, which is like how they're doing a lot of their damage right now. So yeah, I think Pharaoh's Curse, one of the actual better items. It's a little bit weird base stats wise, like it has attack speed on it, so you kind of feel like you want to build it on like a Bologna, Armor, Odin or something like that. But honestly, I think this item's just a bit underrated. It's like a 45-second cooldown, 40% attack speed slow, also a 20% movement slow. That can be relevant too. I do think this item's underrated a bit. Prophetic is pretty bad. I won't ever go Prophetic, to be honest. I won't throw it in the F tier. Like, if you can get it stacked up, if you feel like the game's going to be slow early, you can get away with it, but you don't want to be slow early at the moment. In solo lane, you would much rather be rushing something that gives you extra wave clear, like Sanguine Lash or Mystical, and in support, you can't get away with being so slow. I talked about it with, like, Thebes and Eye of Providence earlier, and this item's even slower than they are. Like, it's just way too slow. You would be rather going, like, Sanguine Lash, Mystical, Male, Regrowth Boost or something. Mushroom, I don't know with Mushroom. I'm going to throw it C. I think it's bad, but I don't really see anyone build it. It could be like Sleeper OP with that new passive that they gave it, where you get like damage mitigation stacks. It's not quite damage mitigation stacks, but it's similar. It could be good. I don't see anyone build it. Like, either it's bad or it's Sleeper OP. I don't really know, to be honest. I think it's bad, though. Phoenix Shield, also pretty bad. I would, like, maybe throw it B. The issue is, like, the only character you're building this on is Mordred, really. It's good on Mordred, like, it's definitely something you should be building on Mordred, but on any other character, I don't think it's worth building. Which probably means I should throw it to the C tier. Like, Mordred can't drag this item all the way up the tier list on his own. On, like, every other warrior in the game, I don't think it's worth building. Spectral Armor is great. We'll throw Spectral Armor to the A tier. This is, like, honestly, nah, I'll throw it S, dude. I'll throw it S. Like, I think the only reason it isn't built more than it is because people don't build crit because Spectral Armor exists. It's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, the item is incredible, so it actually gets used less because of how incredible it is, because people don't build crit because they're scared of Spectral Armor. This item's ridiculous. You know, 400 health, I think it has, and like 30 procs, and then a very powerful passive. It just stops crit from being like so threatening to tanks, which is good. We should have an item like this because crit shouldn't be the build that is shredding down tanks. You should have to go this build to be able to shred down tanks. Well, shred them down super effectively, obviously. Obviously, a crit build should be able to kill tanks, but it shouldn't be, like, really good at killing tanks. But yeah, this item is just so good right now. It makes crit builds much more manageable. Bagua Mirror, that's not the name of this item. I always get confused and call it Bagua Mirror. It is called something else. I legit can't remember the name of this item, and that's because no one builds it because it's terrible. It's like, it gives a load of magical pro and a load of int, but it's giga expensive. That's what this item is. Generally, you don't need giga magical pro. I guess, like, if you're an int user that is also playing against, like, Solid EC, Aladdin Jungle, and, like, fucking Barry Mid or something, if you're playing against that, then sure, maybe this item could be good. But in the vast majority of games, even with, like, a double magical carry, I wouldn't buy this. I'd buy something like Genji's or OD Hunter's Guard before I bought this. And in your typical games where they only have one magical carry in their mid laner, you don't need this much magical pro, and you don't need to be spending that much gold on it and delaying your power spikes. Spirit Robe is great. I think I'll throw Spirit Robe to the A tier. I don't think it's quite S tier anymore. I do think it's, like, just kind of fine, you know, after they nerf the healing on it. Generally, I'm building this in most of my tank builds. I might occasionally skip it if I feel like I need a slot for something more situational, like a Spectral Armor or whatever. But generally, in most of my tank builds, support and solo, I'm building this. It's a good item. Stampede is really good too, A tier. This is one of those more, like, aggressive early game support options that I would rather people build over stuff like Thebes or Prophetic or whatever. It lets you get your team in there. It lets you engage fights that you wouldn't be able to engage otherwise. It's also good for disengaging as well. This item's just really good. It should be in, like, most of your support builds, I think. Team Beads is fine. Team Beads, I'll throw B. You don't need this every game, but obviously in certain matchups, this can be really powerful. You know, negating a Humbat ult, negating an Ares ult, something like that. It can be good. Also, not terrible if you went, like, Shell or Sunder on your support, but then, like, you realize that the enemy team are just, like, chain CCing you and picking you off. You can go this mainly just to save yourself. Totem of Death. This is an interesting one, dude. I feel like I'll probably throw it in the same tier as Executioner. Like, it's definitely worse than Shard. The vast majority of the time, you'd rather go Shard because you don't have to stack this up. You know, as soon as you're throwing out poke, it's doing full percent pen rather than having to stack it up. And generally, you're not building both of these. Like, you don't really have room in your build for that, and mages usually aren't trying to build, like, max percent pen to shred tanks. It's generally not the mage's job to shred the tank. It's the ADC's job. And I don't even know if Merlin is building Totem of Death, and, like, I feel like Merlin is probably one of the better users of it. It might not be great, to be honest. I think I'm still going to throw it A, though, because it is like a big percent pen bomb. It's still good. It's just the vast majority of the time you would rather be building Shard. Void Shield, pretty decent, I think. A little bit underrated. I throw it to, like, B tier. You can definitely build Void Shield. Give yourself a little bit of extra damage as a tank. The base stats give you, like, a lot of stuff you want, but in relatively small amounts. I think it's, like, 25 strength, 150 health, and, like, 30-something physical prop, maybe. Like, it gives you a lot of useful stuff, but in relatively small amounts. You know, only 10% pen as well. It's just like a generic, like, catch-all kind of item, but doesn't give you a load of anything. Mantle of Discord is pretty bad. I'd probably throw it, like, C. I don't really think you have room to fit this in your build, to be honest. If you want like an anti-burst down item, you would rather go Freya's Tears or Spirit Robe, and generally you're not going to need all three of those in your build. Void Stone, also pretty bad. I would say worse than Void Shield generally, just because there aren't that many picks that use this item really well. Triton's Conch, I'll throw B. I think Conch is decent, honestly. It's a little bit situational. Of course, you're generally wanting this on hybrid scaling bruisers. That's like the only thing you would want this on. But in those situations, I think it can be really good. I've been trying this out on Odin Jungle. You know, whenever you're fighting with like your mid and your support or whatever, you're giving them extra stats. But also just like this, just like base stats alone for Odin is pretty good. Gives you a lot of health, a lot of strength, and a lot of it, and he uses all of that really well. Yogi's overrated. Overrated, man. People love this item. I really don't think it's that good. I'll throw it C. I think there are maybe some situations where you might want this in like maybe solo lane if you want that extra regen, but all it gives you is health and health regen. You're still going to get shredded and bursted down late game. Magi is pretty bad. Since they removed the cooldown rate from this, it's just kind of terrible. Like you lose so much damage for going this, and oftentimes it won't save you anyway. You know, it'll save you from a CC, but you'll die anyway most of the time. Contagion, really good. I'll throw it to the A tier. Obviously, you only want this against like some lifesteal. I think without the enemy team having lifesteal, it's not worth going, but oftentimes there will be a good amount of lifesteal on the enemy team. You know, every ADC is building Devos, some junglers are building Devos. A lot of the time you'll have a Sanguine Lash on tanks and stuff like that, so generally there's a good amount of lifesteal going around. Soul Gem on mid, obviously. And you'll generally find a home for Contagion in your support builds. Solo laners can also build this sometimes, but generally solo laners prefer to stack prots in their build. This gives no prots, but you can definitely go in solo as well, but it's more of a support item, I would say. Dwarven Plate is pretty bad. I'll throw it C. Generally just because there's no real reason to build Dwarven Plate when there's better options. Which I'll talk about the better options now. Draconic Scale I think is probably B. I think Draconic Scale is like decent. I was building this item a lot and it feels like it should be really strong. I think the issue is like it takes 7 hits to stack up, and sometimes by the time you've taken 7 hits you're practically dead anyway in a late game team fight, even as a tank. It's like by the time it charges up it's not really like you're kind of like dead at that point, I guess. But like the base stats on it are really good. I think it's like 20 or 25 of each prot and 300 health, which is not bad at all. And then of course you get 21 more flat base protections from the passive stacking up, and plus 21% protections as well, which can be really good. And then Freya's Tears goes probably to at least A. Is it an S tier item? It's probably not. Freya's Tears is really good though. Like it gives 20 cooldown rate, which is hard to come by in tank builds. Most tank items have nowhere near a 20 cooldown rate. Breastplate is kind of like the only other one really. So it's a great way to get some cooldown rate in your build when you wouldn't really be able to find that in like any other items. Privilege only gives 12. And that's the main reason it's strong, but it also gives like a little bit of procs, and then that powerful passive effect prevents you from getting bursted down like quite as much. And yeah, like Draconic Scale is better than Dwarven Plate. Freya's Tears is way better than Dwarven Plate, so generally there's no reason to build Dwarven Plate, is why it's down in C tier. Erosion, I think it's underrated a little bit. I'll definitely throw it B. I think it's an argument you could throw it A, like in the situations where you would want to build it against heavy shielding, like Odin, Yamoja, and stuff like that. It's situational, but like it does give you an up to 20% prop boost and has solid base stats on it as well, plus the anti-shield effect. I do think it's underrated. I think you should try it. If you're playing against like an Odin or Yamoja or whatever, try this on your tanks. I think it's quite good. Set to Dominion is F tier as Troll. If you want to troll around with it, it can be fun. If you've got a heavily coordinated team, like a 5-stack in casuals or whatever, you could probably make use of this item. In solo or duo queue ranked though, oftentimes you're just going to troll your own team more than you're going to like actually get a useful out of this. Daybreak Gavel, I feel like this has to be good, man. I'm going to throw it A. I've not seen too many people using it yet, but the buff that they gave it, where it gives flat stats instead of extra scaling, this item has to be good, dude. This can give like well over 100 strength if you're healing 4 people on your team with this. It's kind of crazy. It's a very specific item though. You know, you're generally only wanting it on like AoE base kit team healer, so stuff like Guan, stuff like Baron, stuff like that. But I think on those picks, it's like 300 health and an absolute crap ton of power, which I think can be really good. Heartwood Charm, I don't even know if this is good. I don't really build it too much, but it's because I don't play the picks that use it. I've seen some people building it though. I think it's probably at least B. But I don't know, it could be broken. It's just I don't really see it too much. Umbral Link, pretty bad. I don't think there's much reason to build Umbral Link. And finally, Regrowth Strider's S tier. This item is still really incredible. 15 cooldown rate, I've talked about it a little bit before. Cooldown rate is quite hard to come by in tank builds, so anything with above 10 cooldown rate is generally going to be a pretty good item. And it gives you a ton of other stuff as well. Obviously, loads of sustain, movement speed to catch people up, some physical protection, some mana. Any god with a base kit heal that's easily applicable probably should be building this item. Is crazy good. But yeah, there you go. That is your OB17 item tier list. You got the best items in the game up here in S tier. You got the worst items in the game down in F tier. Don't build these, and everything in between. Let me know your thoughts down below. Of course, did I overrate some items, underrate some items? Let me know how your experience has been, and I will catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.